Is it sun bright or out on my core? This is the moment you're meant to know.
Well, hello there, sunflowers, and how are you guys today? Well, I am here to, sorry, I am here to talk about Megan the Stallion because allegedly there's a lot going on with Megan the Stallion recently. And honestly, tell me, guys, did you realize that this whole the Stallion shot in the foot incident all happened in 2025, now almost 6 years ago, and we're still dealing with this? And Tory Lanez got sentenced in 2023, and yet she still got another case that got going on. Girl, Meg, I'm sorry. And then, of course, we know there was some little beef going on with her and Glorilla. So it's just our girl, Meg, can't seem to catch a break recently. So here are the three things that I'm here to talk about before I dive into her reading and just figure out what's going on energetically with Meg the Stallion at this very moment. Because last time I did a reading was when she had released her song, and I specifically remember her wearing and sporting a blue butterfly to symbolize the transformation that she has gone through. So that's why I want to know, now that she has transformed and she's this new Meg, how is new Meg handling all this pressure and drama and situation going on in her life still? Because, they say you can do all the healing that you want, but when you're still in an environment that can be triggering for you, that really is the test of true mint, if you're healed or not from that environment. So because of that, but also sometimes it can bring you back in and bring you back into those old feelings. So I just want to know all about that Megan Thee Stallion, but all that. So first off, with Tory Lanez, he was first, I'm not sure if this was recent, but he has to pay Megan Thee Stallion's lawyers or attorneys and fees for $20,000. For $20,000, he has to pay for obstruction and also just for this case. So that's part of his sentencing as well. However, he has also tried to refuse or take an appeal against this case. So that way, I guess because he still feels as though Megan Thee Stallion's using the victim, and when you're like the victim in the situation, according to California, you're not. It's not kind of like automatic, but you kind of get like the leg up in that situation. And Tory Lanez feels as though it was justly used against him. However, his appeal was denied. And then he is set to be released in 2032. He's got quite a while. Also, he's refusing to do any questioning for this upcoming next case that I'm talking about. Second thing with Meg Thee Stallion is this defamation lawsuit case against Milagro Grams, who is allegedly a blogger. She, according to the stories I've heard, has went to great lengths and great extents to lie on Megan Thee Stallion's name. However, Milagro is claiming that her information was sourced from Tasha K. And we all know that Tasha K had a huge defamation lawsuit against her with Cardi B. So now that Milagro is having a huge defamation law case against herself, she's pointing to Tasha K like, well, that's where I got my source from. So if you're going to come for me, come for Tasha K. Trying to pass on the blame. But I heard she has really made some extravagant claims out there. So I'm not sure how true it is. But we'll find that out all in this case that Megan Thee Stallion is sadly going to have to go through. The trial just recently started. I think it was today or it could have been Friday, but just recently this week, within the last 7 days, Megan Thee Stallion had to start her trial in Florida against Milagro. And also, speaking of which, Milagro having also had to fork up some money for the attorney fees for Megan the Stallion's attorneys, although Milagro only had to pay 5,000. Still a lot though, but compared to Tori's 20,000. Next, of course, at this trial, there's apparently a lot of people that's supposed to be there. I didn't get a lot, but I put a few down that just seemed noteworthy to mention and spotlight and highlight. If y'all know the names, you know the names. I didn't dive too deeply into that. But we, of course, we know Meg and Milagro supposed to be there, and apparently Milagro's ex-friend, who's testifying against her, is supposed to be there. And then Tory Lanez and Tory Lanez's dad is supposed to be there. These are all the people that are set to testify. And then we have somebody who once represented both Tory and Milagro, but then they just dropped Milagro and only represented Tory. They're going to be there. And then we have somebody who was and then there's another person who has a lawsuit out against Milagro. So they're also going to be testifying. So I don't know. It's not looking good for you, Milagro Grams. So you might have to figure this one out. But on the bright side, Megan Thee Stallion has a really supportive boyfriend, though, Klay Thompson. His NBA fellow stars, I'm not sure if they were on his team. Yeah, they were on his team. They could have been on his team. I'm not quite sure. I didn't follow sports. I didn't think that was too deep of a detail. But two NBA players, that's what's most important, was speaking out about Klay's game, his ball game on the court specifically, saying that, Megan Thee Stallion's a good girl. She could be great, amazing, but she kind of messing up bro's game. He's like, nothing against Megan Thee Stallion, but she bringing up some negative juju. And allegedly, Klay Thompson has been struggling with the basketball games for the last 7 games. So I don't know if that means anything. We know how they get in sports. At one point, people thought Taylor Swift was a bad luck charm for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I don't know. Maybe that's the point that Megan Thee Stallion's going through. Maybe it's in especially with all this tied to Megan Thee Stallion. I don't blame you, but however, I really like the fact that he had came out and defended his girlfriend, saying basically in a few words summed up, how would you like it if I talked about your wives like that? Say less, right? He said more words than that, but that was basically his sentiment is, how would you feel if I talked about your wives the way you talked about my girlfriend? So because of that, I'm glad for Klay had stood up for Megan Thee Stallion in that sense, but also at the same time, I hope he can get his ball game together. I heard he just recently he hasn't been scoring too well, but you know what? That's besides the point. She has a supportive boyfriend. So with that being said, we're just going to shuffle these cards and I'm just going to pull out what's going on with Megan Thee Stallion's energy. Is it upbeat? Is it downbeat? Is it healed? Is it struggling? Is it just wanting to get this ish over with and be done with? Meg said this, Meg didn't do this, Megan crew-hoo, boo-hoo. Is she just done with all this and ready to move on to a new phase and chapter in her life with her new mans? Let's find out what the cards have to say for Megan Thee Stallion. Okay, these cards want to come out. Oh, oof. The first card that came out was the Tower card. Yikes. So let's see what's at her foundation. Maybe this is really good. because this could be the final stage before the boss, where everything comes crashing down, because you're going to need that final stamina. You're going to be needing to be rejuvenated before you head back in and fight that boss, and it's all over with. So it seems like this case that she's got with Milagro is like the last thing that she needs to deal with this whole case of her past before she can finally move forward. But let's see in the bottom. Yep, her foundation is the Seven of Wands, literally defending herself, standing her ground, but also more importantly, just standing within her sacred truth, knowing that whatever is true within herself, she knows her story. And no matter what anybody else wants to say, no matter what anybody else wants to think, she knows the truth, what happened, how she felt. And if you want to believe her, believe her. If you don't want to believe her, don't believe her. She's not going to waste any blood, sweat, or tears worrying about trying to convince anybody to believe her story any more or any less at this point. So at this juncture, let's just see what was in her past that led up to this point. I mean, we pretty much know. The Eight of Wands, which usually symbolizes somebody who feels as though they are trapped, but it's a trapped based off of the perspective that they are looking from. And that's exactly how Megan Thee Stallion has been operating for the last few months, honestly, or years, honestly. She has been working on herself, and because she's been working on herself, things that she used to react to. So that's where she's coming from at this point. Back in the past, I once felt trapped, and that was the thing I was worried about. I'm like, is she going to go back to feeling that way, feeling overwhelmed, maybe feeling a little bit depressed and having sad girl hours over what's going on with this whole Tory Lanez and having to convince and make anybody believe her story with this jury, with this trial going on. But now that she has a better sense of self and she stands strong within herself, that perspective of I got to prove myself, or I got to stand my ground, or I got to be all on my own. Yeah, she's all on her own now, but at least she stands all on her own in confidence. It's not like she's shrouding. It's not like she's shrieking behind anything. She's standing, like this card is symbolizing, she's now standing out bright and boldly, and you're going to hear her roar. Basically, she's always been this delicate butterfly that's been waiting to grow, because that situation changed her, period, and this trial has changed her even more on top of that. So because of that, she's already done so much change that there's got to come a point where the change has to finally manifest itself and become present. So let's see what's in her head at this moment. Ooh, the Hangman paired with the Tower and the Seven of Wands. Every card I get here is basically a defense, but every card I also get here is also seeing from things from a different perspective, because the Hangman, just like the Bat, hangs themselves upside down because they need a different perspective and they need to see things from a different viewpoint and vantage point. And when you get that and you see something upside down completely from a different side perspective outside of yourself, basically, you need to get outside of yourself to think bigger and see what is grander than what you think, and grander than what you think. You can make some situations out of this. So enough situations, but make some resolutions out of the situation. And because of that, that's how she's feeling. So she's figuring out how she can approach and maneuver this case from the old way that she was operating. That's retired. That's old. Now she's going to go in it with a new mind, a new perspective, and a new energy. And it might feel a bit jarring for everyone, but mostly for her, she's standing 100% more confidently within herself, 10 toes down. And in the future, I wouldn't expect anything less. The Nine of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles, usually we talk about how it's not fully completing the cycle, but we know that she's still reaching the pinnacle of her career, or it's plateaued and is going to be as it's going to be. I'm not quite sure how much this case has ruined her reputation overall, but she's still an out-banging singer, dresser, all that. So Megan the Stallion has not fallen off in the slightest bit. So she's still reigning tall, still reigning big, just like the Nine of Pentacles says. And that's what she's standing on. She knows her value. She knows her value, and she knows her worth. And she knows how far to go without losing herself, her dignity, and her respect and her reputation. So because of that, she's learned what's worth going for and what's worth not going for, what's worth showing too much and what's worth not showing too much. The Nine of Pentacles is basically the card of never letting your slip show, basically. That's the way I interpret it. So let's just pull 3 cards that symbolizes what's the okay, 3 cards. 3 cards literally. I couldn't make that one up. So the first card that was there was the Think card. Then the second card that came out was the Scythe card. And then the third card that came out was the Big Ego card. So what we see here with this Think and what's going on with Megan the Stallion at this very moment is that she's really up in her head and is thinking through this situation. But there's just a lot on her mind, period, about what she's got going on. Whether that's about her relationship, whether this about this court case, whether it's about her music, whether it's about moving on or forward and with her career, what she wants to do and branch out in different options. So because of that, Megan the Stallion's got a lot on her mind that she has to process and work through. And because of that, she's not going to allow it to affect her. And she's not going to allow it to get in the way of how she shows up in life. And she's grown from that, basically. And that's exactly what I see here with this Scythe card. This Scythe symbolizes she's cut off those old patterns and things and people that didn't once serve her in the past. And she's moving forward from that. And she's learning to grow better habits. She's learning to cultivate and cherish and nourish on her own self and love her own self and feed into her own self instead of other people. So because of that, that change of mindset also brings a sense of harvest and growth that's not much material, but much more spiritual and much more centered within oneself. Now, the question is, could this all lead to a big ego? I'm not sure, but I think the big ego could symbolize knowing that you're the ish, knowing that nobody is better than you, knowing that you've done the work and that you've put in the work and that you've grown and have done everything that you could and tried. So when you have a big ego like that, in that sense, yeah, it's forthright and justice. It's not just to be a big ego because you're cocky. It's a big ego because you know that you can back it up. You have the ego and you have the drive to back it up. So because of that, I see the big ego when it comes to Megan the Stallion. However you guys want to view it, depending on how you feel about Megan the Stallion, you guys will view it. But the way I see with this big ego for her is that she has a more sense and love for herself. And for that, she's kind of riding that high of invisible, you can't touch me. And if you do, it's not like you got to me. It's not like you got to move me. It's not like you got me to act outside of my character. I'm not giving anybody that sort of justice or that sort of satisfaction or gratification any longer. So that's how Megan the Stallion's feeling, and right, justfully so. 100% Meg. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this reading on Megan the Stallion. I sure did. I hope you enjoyed that brief recap that I also gave you guys before I jumped in. Tell me, does that coincide? Do you guys feel like that's how Megan the Stallion's feeling? I don't follow her as much as I used to, but I still check on her here and there, and I still can't believe after 5-6 years, she's still dealing with being shot in the foot. Anyway, with that being said, I will see you sunflowers in the next one. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. It would really mean a lot to the channel. We would really appreciate it. Please and thank you. Give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already, and share this with anybody that's a fan of Megan Thee Stallion. Share this with anybody that's not a fan of Megan Thee Stallion. Maybe this can persuade them to like her. And hey, give this to somebody that's kind of on the fence. Who knows? With that being said, I will see you sunflowers in the next one. Leave your comments down below. And sunflowers.